All right, let's get some catching up. Let's get some catching up done. So, Final Fantasy IV. Now, as with FF1, this is of course FF4's Pixel Remaster. I still wish they would bring the Pixel Remasters to consoles. I really do. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my monitor so that I can focus more on the camera because I've been failing that. Final Fantasy IV. Let's talk about this. FF4 is very interesting. As I said on stream, FF4 was my introduction to classic Final Fantasy. In case I need to define that real quick, classic Final Fantasy is what I consider to be 1 through 6. FF1 is the start of it, FF6 is the end of it. With the PS1 era, in my opinion, being the transition period from to the modern, right? You could kind of think of it as the PS1 era as kind of the transition from classic to modern. It wasn't quite at the modern stage yet, but it wasn't quite there. And I'm basically arguing semantics, but then again, for me personally, I can't really quantify it in the modern era because I can think of like 2 Final Fantasies that I actually enjoyed in the modern era, not counting any sequels or spin offs, which, for the record, was 12 and 15. Though I enjoy 12 more than I enjoy 15, if I'm honest. And someday, of course, I will go ahead and review 12. But then again, I'm also going to review 13. So I'm probably going to go back to review 2 and 3 after reviewing 7, 8, and 9 at some point. I don't know. I haven't decided. Because because it would be better to just get all of the ones I don't enjoy out in a nice one big bundle. But I, of course, have been tasked with reviewing a different game now that I have dealt with Final Fantasies 4, 5, and 6, which are going to be the next 3 videos that I record. I have a time limit today of about 3 hours, so we'll see how many of these I can knock out in 3 hours. And of course, I don't want to be interrupted, so let's just go ahead and nip that in the butt right now. Oh, there we go. So, turning my phone off. So, Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV is, as I sit up so I'm not slouching, Final Fantasy IV is what I call a game where I need to check my setup here for a second. Sorry, give me a sec. Okay, we're good. Final Fantasy IV, in many ways, was one of the first times where people started to take stories in video games, seriously. Not the, not the absolute first time, but it was one of the first times where, where the SNES was really where story-driven video games could really shine. Because with the NES, you could get stories on the NES. Ninja Gaiden proved this. But most of the time, you weren't really getting full-blown epics, right? Because there just wasn't enough space on the cartridge. It's actually one of the reasons why Ninja Gaiden was as impressive as it was. Because its cutscenes were minimalistic and still told some pretty engaging stories. I mean, for God's sakes, most people probably will remember the ninja, the sword, the big epic sword swing scene from the beginning of Ninja Gaiden 1, right? But FF4 was the first time where a game could tell a long-form story and actually tell you a story. Some people have accused Final Fantasy of not being really a role-playing series because you don't really do any role-playing. I find those people to be dumb, because you are taking on the role of the protagonist of a story, right? Now, if you want to argue it's not really that much in terms of gameplay, well, again, that's getting into genre semantics, and I am not wanting to get into that argument, because if we start getting into that argument, then then there are literally only two RPG games that have ever been made, ever. Dungeons and Dragons and Dragon Age Origins. Regardless of any of that, though, the one thing I will say about Final Fantasy IV is I definitely like it more for the story than the gameplay. But that's not to say that the gameplay is bad. Far from it. This is where a lot of the standard JRPG and the standard turn-based JRPG combat mentalities came from. The bars, the active time bars, the casting of spells, the classes, all of that stuff. May not have been the innovator of it, because I think Breath of Fire was before this, but it was definitely the codifier, if nothing else. Because a lot of RPGs would follow suit with what both Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy would do. And while Dragon Quest would go more pure turn-based for a lot of its combat, I still enjoy Final Fantasy's more or fast-paced approach to combat. In other words, the idea behind the active time battle system, which FF4 started, was enemies would not just wait around for you to select your commands. In other words, you had to be quick on the fly with your command selection in order to go ahead and get all that done. You needed to be quick on your feet, so to speak, with your decision making. And it made the battles intense and enjoyable, because now you had to worry about getting your commands in as soon as possible, so to get them in the queue, so that way attacks could be launched, right? It's actually a very engaging system, and one that honestly it feels so stupid for me to talk about it, because it's a classic approach, right? What I like most about the way FF4 approaches its combat and its progression in general is that it limits your party to specific characters at any given point in the story. But it all feels fair, except for I forget the name of it. Give me a sec to check my notes. Where is it? I think it's over here. Yeah, the Magnetic Cavern, which I gave 2 gameplay negatives for, because God, I hate that place. With only one exception, the dungeons are actually fair and well done. I just really fucking hate the Magnetic Cavern. Which is funny, because I've actually heard some people say, Sylph Cave is bad, and the land, the little mini dungeon leading to the Land of Summons is bad. I kind of disagree, because I actually didn't think those were too bad at all. But to each his own. I should also mention that this game's gameplay actually surpassed past Fire Emblem Sacred Stones, Fire Emblem Awakening, and even Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, admittedly, that's also because there was a lot of bullshit. There was a lot of bullshit maps in Fire Emblem Three Houses, and FF4 doesn't really have too much bullshit. It's the lack of bullshit that really bolsters FF4 above of Three Houses' gameplay, in my opinion. Even though Three Houses' gameplay has a lot of interesting stuff, I feel more powerful in FF4 quicker than I do in Three Houses. And there's also a lot of things holding back, like I said, holding Three Houses back, like I said, because otherwise Three Houses could easily have been, my highest gameplay score. What's funny is that had we basically progressed, spoilers for 5 and 6, we progressively got 3 new champions now for that distinct honor. Actually, I have my other notebook here because I want to double check something. No, that's go on Nexus. So page back. No, this is all the Shamir stuff. Oh, that's Shredder's Revenge. I was like, episode 13, what? Sorry. Just quickly checking something here. Here we go. Yeah, because there was a tie between... my top gameplay score had a tie between Halo Reach and... which was plus 31 to gameplay, and Three Houses, which also had plus 31. And then the 16-bit Final Fantasy trilogy beat it in terms of beat that gameplay score, or with progressively higher stuff. 36 for 4, 40 for 5, which I know Mike cocks some eyebrows. I'll explain in the FF5 video. And FF6, which beat which was the top contender of the 3. Mostly because FF5 has some stuff that was dragging it down, otherwise FF5 easily would have been the best. Problem is, I really don't... The problem is there's a lot of bullcrap in FF5 dragging that gameplay score down. Mostly because I know a lot of people like the bosses in that game. There are a lot of bosses I fucking hate in Final Fantasy V. Which is funny because there's actually not a lot of stuff to hate on in FF6, which is hilarious because FF6 literally walked away with only 3 gameplay negatives. Or, sorry, not 3 gameplay negatives, 3 story negatives. It had like 20 something. It had like 26 gameplay negatives. But that's just because certain aspects of it were absolute gutter trash. Right? Mostly in the world of Ruin. Go figure. But again, that's something to get into later. Which is funny because I actually gave the Pixel Remasters as their soundtrack more positives than I did for FF6. But then again, I've always liked FF4 soundtrack better, and I do think a lot of the music is actually really good. So there you go. Because, yeah, I do think of the classic Final Fantasies, this is my favorite. I can name one other FF that well, no, let me take that back. 2 other FFs that would get a triple positive for music. That would be 7 and 9, if you're wondering. But again, that's something to consider when we go through it. FF4 also has some impressive flow of exploration. I've I already talked about in FF1 about the dungeon maps and how good those are. Same deal here. I mean, it doesn't show the hidden pathways, but it does still show you the chests. It does show you whether or not you open them, so that's all good. But I love the flow of exploration because it always feels like you're guided along a path, but you're not necessarily punished for where to go. It's just you need specific things to get access certain things. Very Metroid-esque. For example, you need Rydia to be in the party, or you need Rydia and Rosa to be in the party so that Rosa can encourage Rydia to cast fire because she doesn't like fire. Because Rydia doesn't like fire, right? For story reasons. And it's that kind of gameplay story integration that I really enjoy, right? I honestly love a lot of the characters from a gameplay perspective, but there is one character we should talk about from a gameplay perspective that I don't like, and that's Edward. Edward is a bard, and to be honest with you, I've never understood the appeal of playing as a bard, but sometimes, but a lot of times it can be made fun. Edward is an example of how to do it badly. See, Edward has this ability to hide, so he goes off screen, and the only thing he can do is reappear. If he's the only one left, then him hiding is is pathetic and pointless because he will hide, and you're basically just soft locked. He'll come out, but then he'll automatically hide, and it's like, oh my god, no, dude, I need you out here for like 2 minutes so you can fucking use a Phoenix down on Cecil. Come on! It's really stupid, and I hate him. Never mind the fact that his buffs are, his songs aren't even that useful unless you're playing the 3D remake, in which case you cannot get an augment that actually allows you to give that ability to other people. You know? So yeah, no, not a fan of Edward. But there are some good fights. I enjoyed the fight with Octomammoth. That was a damn good. That was a fun fight. Um, the NPCs are once again helpful, so plus to that, absolutely. Uh, the whole Scarmiglione, the Earth Fiend, was a good fight. Right. I'll talk about the Paladin thing in the story section, though it was cool in gameplay. Didn't like fighting Bagan. Here, I'm gonna speed myself up, slow you down, and protect myself. Elf and spam and that stuff. Bleh. Kaknaza was a cool fight though. The water fiend, he was cool. Really don't like fighting the dark elf. He is a difficulty cliff. He's a difficulty cliff, and, and and he's a difficulty spike from hell. I call that a difficulty cliff. You know, and I hate it. Autosave is still damn good. I've said my piece. Let's explain why the magnetic cavern, though, for dealing with the dark elf, is awful. You can't take metallic weapons, so you're artificially being limited, and it's not a fun place. I hate it. The Magus Sisters was a cool boss fight. That's a story thing. I don't want to get into that. I put auto battle twice. Whoops. I guess I really didn't want to forget it. Barbarisha is actually really damn cool, even though there's like only one way to fight it. Dr. Luge is a freaking status effect, like nightmare. Uh, this is the first time okay, I should talk about this. This is the first time we ran into an issue I like to call NPC placement and movement. See, in older RPGs, especially the 2D ones, and in the 2D ones, though this can apply to 3D ones as well. Specific characters will body block, right? So let's say I'm trying to go into this inn, right? Well, there's this NPC that won't get the hell out of the way, and every time I run into them, so they'll quickly get out of my way, they go up to where I need to go. I hate it. It doesn't affect things too badly in most towns, but some towns it's just like, oh my god, will you get the hell out of my way? You know? The encounter rate did start to bug me by the end of the game. Not much to say there. So you remember how I talked about in FF1 about the poison fetish, about how FF1 had this had just had this obsession with with inflicting you with poison. Well, the FFs in general have a nasty habit of having a status effect fetish, where they will have enemies that will constantly bombard you with status effects, and depending on the game, it can be extremely severe. This one was only one negative. I don't remember how many I gave. FF5. Give me a moment. Uh, I did give a specific one, but I could have sworn there was a status effect. A status effect fetish negative somewhere. Couldn't have been that early, was it? Oh, there it is. It was early. Yeah, FF5 is 3 negatives to status effect fetish, and FF6 didn't get even one. Now, a boss fight that forces status effects on you in the stupidest way possible did get a negative. But yeah, the game in general, FF6 really doesn't have that much of a status effect fetish. It really doesn't, which is funny. I mean, to me, because FF1 got it. It got the negative. FF4 got it, and FF5 got 3 negatives for it. It's actually one of the reasons why I hate so many of the bosses in that game. Status effects, status effects, status effects. Because it's basically, oh, do you have ribbons? Ribbons? Oh, you do, and you have the ability to equip it. Okay, you're good. Move on. Oh, you don't? Well, screw you, you die! Yeah, I'm not a fan of games that rely heavily on status effects to be difficult. It really pisses me off. It's actually one of the reasons. Although there is a caveat to that, and that is, and that of course is, and that is of course the gimmick fights. Specifically Odin, which is a DPS race, and Bahamut, which is basically which is basically mirror force the fucker to death. Now you're probably thinking, wait, you have to reflect his attacks and that's how you win? Well, you can also try and tank it, but good frickin' luck on that front, right? Especially if you just go straight to the first moment you can fight Bahamut, you know? Oh, I did give the Sylvan Cave a negative. Okay, my bad. Ed, never mind. I also gave the Toad status effect in general a negative. So there's that. The Lunar Whale is a cool airship. Yep, I actually kind of like it. It comes with a free rest, so you don't even have to waste tents. which is kind of cool. Um, that's something to get into a bit later, but that was a damn cool boss fight. The Mega Man refight, it's basically the equivalent of the Mega Man refight. I gave the Lunar Whales transition between the two worlds animation a plus because that was cool. I liked that. Um, and then some of the bosses in the final dungeon, it got pluses. Specifically, just the idea of unlocking the sealed weapons in general, and a Dark Bahamut, who I put Tiamat in question. I put in brackets Tiamat question mark because if for those not in the know, there is actually a dark version of Bahamut that is called Tiamat in FF8. It's actually one of the reasons I asked that. Then there's getting the Adamantite to go and uh, get Excalibur. This is awful because you basically have to go get it from a specific enemy, and you're never told what enemy that is, and you just have to guess or look it up, and then you have to get it. Then you have to go to the underworld. To world 2, because there is technically 3 worlds, so you have to go into the underworld. Spoiler alert: the moon is where is the third one. But yeah, so you have to get that, go to the blacksmith in the underworld. I think the place you have to get it from is actually in the overworld. So you have to go to the overworld, go to a specific spot, get this thing, and get a specific item from a specific enemy. Then you got to take it to the underworld, go give it to him, and he'll forge Excalibur for you. Remember when it was literally just let's go to this specific spot, get this thing, and then go take it to the blacksmith in the one area? Like it was in FF1? I miss that. But then then there's the final boss. Now, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna say who it is until we get to the story section, but I know a lot of people like it because it's one of the more properly hard fights, and I'll grant you, it is for the most part properly hard, unless he decides to spam his ultimate move constantly. Because see, what the final boss is supposed to do is he's supposed to go. You're supposed to get like this shake and this sound effect, right? This type of sound effect before he's about to unleash his ultimate attack, which I believe is called Big Bang. So he hits you with Big Bang, and it does a shit ton of damage, right? I've had that fucker spam me with that, which is funny because as the final boss of FF5 didn't do that. He could have, but he didn't. Look, there's properly hard, which, hit me with a massive attack, and if I'm not ready for it, or I'll spend time recovering, and then there's just here, let's spam crap. He also spammed spells on me and could go like 2 or 3 times in a round before I could make a single move. That's cheap, right? The powerful attacks are damaging enough, right? But like you make it so that he can frickin' use multiple in a turn, and it's just like, oh, fuck off, you know. So I think I'm out of gameplay notes. There's not, like I said, there's not a lot for me to talk about when it comes to the gameplay. I like the summon animations; those are cool. Well, this is definitely a playable game. There's a lot of good gameplay story integration. But yeah, no. I think I'm done with the gameplay, so now as ever, so I don't forget, as I drop this that should actually just go in this my garbage bag over here. So now we're moving on to spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright. And I just realized my TV has been on this whole time. Sorry about that. But anyways, so how... yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not losing a half an hour recording just for that. Sorry. But anyways, let's talk about the story. FF4 at its very core is a redemption story. A redemption story for Cecil Harvey. Now, some people say that Cecil's character arc ends, right? Like it concludes, and then he keeps being the main character. I can see where people are coming from, because some people say his character arc basically concludes with him becoming a paladin. I disagree. I think his character arc actually concludes... I can turn my monitor off again. I think his character arc actually concludes when he comes to terms about his brother. Effectively, there are two character arcs for Cecil. One where he has to quote the back of the DS case, bid farewell to his blood-stained past, and his second character arc is to effectively, when he learns of his brother, to kind of accept his brother for who he is. And each of the characters do actually go through a character arc, which honestly I think makes up for the lack of it, right? Kane goes through a character arc. Rosa kind of goes through a character arc. Rydia absolutely goes through a character arc and is fucking amazing. I absolutely love Rydia. She is amazing. And I stand behind my triple positive to her. Which is funny because a lot of the characters actually did get multiple pluses. Cecil got a double plus, Kane got a double plus, Rosa got a double plus. And then even then, characters have different, have got story pluses as well. Tella got one, and Golbez actually got a double. Well, there was a lot of great stuff there. Now, I want to talk about each of the characters individually. I'm going to be doing this with FF6 as well, and FF5, admittedly. So, I want to talk about each of the characters in the order that I actually like them in. Which means we got to start with Edward, because Edward was a wash. And just a wash, I think. Well, I didn't even jot down a note for Young. Huh. But, But let's start with the one I don't like. I don't like Edward. I find his cowardice, while it's understandable, to be a bit... This guy is the prince, for, Damsian. That was it. I actually wrote it down. Thank God. This guy's the Prince of Damsian, This is the guy that his daughter ran off to be with. Also, can I just say that from memory, I kind of hated the whole, well, yes, I'm going to blame you for all of this. It's Edward, until, Golbez is brought up. That didn't actually irritate me, because it took all of like a minute for Anna to chime in with her dying breath and say, hey, no, Edward's cool. It's Golbez you should go kick the ass of. Well, she doesn't say that. Edward actually mentions Golbez. That's the first time Golbez is mentioned, and then Tella's rage gets directed to him, to Golbez. Now, I have to admit, I like this because we all know the trope, right? Hey, my daughter is dead and she cared about you, therefore you must be the killer. I fucking hate that. It's a realistic response, yes, but not every boyfriend and is a homicidal maniac out to fucking kill your daughter. Now, okay, but again, when the truth is revealed, he again, like I said, Tella goes after Golbez instead. I like that because it shows that Tella isn't stupid, right? He's not going to claim that Edward is secretly working for Golbez or any of this shit, especially when he knows who's working with frickin' Golbez, and it's the Kingdom of Baron, right? He doesn't even accuse Baron. Like, Baron does not become the enemy. It's strictly Golbez. You know? Also, I do love that this translation literally kept in the "You Spoony Bard" line, which is, I have heard that line is either a mistranslation. I have actually heard both. It's either a mistranslation they left in, or it's one of the few accurately translated lines in the entire game. Either way, it's good dialogue, so why not? Yes, "You Spoony Bard" is good dialogue because it shows that Tella is enraged and not thinking straight, showing us that he's unhinged without saying, "Tella, you're unhinged," right? Showing us through his dialogue that he's unhinged. And then Anna brings him back to his senses and says for her death, which is really damn good. Good, right? So that's Edward. Admittedly, he also has a good scene with him dealing with the Shagan and Capo. You know, and him helping us with the Dark Elf is actually a nice scene. So even Edward has a chance to shine. Unfortunately, that leads us to Yang. Unfortunately, that leads us to another character who I don't like. And honestly, I should have started with him because, I'll be honest, it's just because I forgot about him. Let's talk about Edge. Because Edward I don't like from both a story and a gameplay perspective. Edge I kind of like from a gameplay perspective, but man, can I not stand him from a story perspective. Fuck. Okay. I think the way we described it on stream was imagine Sylvain if Sylvain was arrogant, basically. He's arrogant Sylvain. Because here's the thing. Edge has this thing of, oh, I can't stand to see a beautiful woman cry and flirt, right? But he's also hell-bent on revenge. Now, the reason why I say he's arrogant is very simple. He goes up against Rubicante, the Fiend of Fire, and he uses fire attacks on him. I'm reminded of a joke SF Debris made in one of his reviews of an episode of Justice League Unlimited. In Justice League Unlimited, where these enemies try to defeat Aquaman, as in the King of Atlantis, Aquaman, with like their method of trying to get rid of Aquaman is to try drowning him. I'd just like to remind you that Aquaman can, if I'm not mistaken, can breathe underwater. And leave it at that. And this is the exact same thing. You are literally using fire on the dude who frickin' feeds on fire. This is like you literally tossing fireballs at Natsu Dragneel from frickin' Fairy Tale. It's not gonna work. In fact, with Natsu, it's even fucking worse because Natsu will eat will eat that fireball and say, "Thanks for the snack. Now here, have here, I'm gonna send it right back. Fire dragon, roar!" You know, God. But yeah, Edge is goddamn irritating. And yes, I did give him a negative. Although the scene with his parents, I did actually go ahead and give a +2. We'll get to his worst scene though, because it's also Cecil and Kane's worst scene a bit later when we talk about Cecil. Because I'll save Cecil for last, obviously. Then we get into the characters I don't much care about, that I'm neutral on, although I do like Sid. And that is, of course, there's Yang. And we'll start with Yan, who I'm actively neutral on, and then Sid I gave a +2 because I actually kind of found him funny. Yan is actually kind of interesting as a Fabul monk, and I actually enjoy him as his mannerisms. And yeah, like I said, so I like Young as as an honorable monk, kind of thing. It's really cool, martial artist, basically. And I do like Sid, how Sid is funny. But I could not bring myself to give any positives to the scenes where these two sacrifice themselves. Now, with Yawns, it's even freaking worse because there was literally no reason for him to lock them out of the room and do whatever the fuck he does in that room to stop to stop. I think it's in the giant to stop whatever the hell it is he stops, right? Which I can't even remember because it's just such a dumb scene, right? Actually, give me a sec. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's when we go to stop the giant. But it's still like, huh? What the fuck are you high on here? Here, right? And then there's Sid sacrificing himself to seal the underworld, only for us to like an hour or two in gameplay later open up the way to the underworld, the path to the underworld again. That's just dumb AF. I hate it. Because we have to go back into the underworld to frickin' go and deal with some shit, and it's just like, oh, come on. uh, also, spoilers, they're both fine because they're both in the cavalry moment. Which leads us to Palom and Porum. Okay, Palom and Porum, I admit I actually eased up on, although I think I gave those two. Actually, did I give those two negatives? Let me double check. They were just washes. Admittedly, yeah, I don't care for them. I don't think they really warranted any kind of. I don't remember if I gave in the final thing I gave them negatives or not. But I did absolutely give their sacrifice a negative because I was just like, oh my god. Now, it's supposed to be impactful, and then near the end of the game, oh yeah, by the way, the Elder healed us. I would have been okay with this in one way. In one way. First of all, make Young and make it so that Young doesn't fucking sacrifice himself stupidly, and two, make it so that Sid's sacrifice is actually, really kills him instead of having him fake us out twice. God damn it, game. Fuck off with that. And but it's just so stupid because if that had stuck, then I would have been okay with it. Even if you wanted to give me the option for a side quest, right? Like maybe there was a side quest of we hear about this super soft, right? Kind of like in FF9, and then we can go seek out the super soft. I would have been all for that. Of course, I would have been all for going on that quest to get the super soft in FF9 itself, but I guess Tantalus beats Zidon's gang. The party to the punch on that one. But whatever. Ever. Right? Don't much care for him. Care for that. Then there's Tella. Then that leads us to Tella. Tella, because Tella is. How do I put this? Tella's interesting in that his revenge against Golbez makes perfect sense, and it leads him to mount ordeals so he can get Meteor in order to cast it on Golbez and take him down, which actually only snaps him out of the mind control, which only helps to it freezes Kane, frees Kane from the mind control, and then weakens Golbez enough. First time he's ever been truly weakened, which I like. Right? And his death is actually very nice and impacting. Not as much as another death in a future FF, which we'll get to, but it's still really good. Before I talk about that, I want to talk about. I actually want to talk about Rosa and Kane. Because I said it was. Oh shit! I said I was gonna save. I need to check to see if that did anything or if that was just a squeak on the wall. That was a squeak on the wall. Okay, good. So Rosa and Kane. Rosa and Kane are very interesting as they are Cecil's. Well, I'll just call them what they are. They are Cecil's BFFs. They're his best friends. Rosa is, of course, the woman he loves, and Kane is his nakama, his brother. Rosa is very interesting in that she's very devoted to Cecil, and I buy the romance implicitly. Instantly, and she goes out of her way to be helpful, right? Which makes a scene we'll get to very fucking irritating. But I digress. So, Cecil, so Rosa loves Cecil. They're in love. And she's very devoted. Very nice. And she's also very supportive in that she is the reason why Rydia is able to learn fire, because again, Rydia's village burning down and kind of makes it so she doesn't like fire, which makes perfect sense. But we need her to be able to cast fire because we need a wall of ice destroyed. Good way to overcome your issues with fire, my dear. And good encouragement on your part, Rosa. Then there's of course So then there's, of course, Cain. Now, Cain is the victim of brainwashing mostly because he has dark thoughts in his heart. What dark thoughts? Jealousy. He doesn't like that he's jealous of Cecil, but he is jealous of Cecil because he is in love with Rosa. Now, some people might say, oh, because he's got the hots for Rosa. No. Allow me to professionally disagree. It is actual, no really genuine love for Rosa. It's actually because if it was just a lusting thing, and if Cain was like a terrible person, then yeah, he would just be like all jealous, like why does Cecil get to bang Rosa? She's a frickin' hottie, and shit like that. I'm sorry for bumping the table, but why does he get it? The super attractive Rosa, and I get nothing, absolutely nothing. Well, and but of course that's what the darkest part of his heart is telling him. When in reality, what he really is, he's not wanting to act out on those feelings because he's ashamed of them. Ashamed of them. Because of course he is. Why wouldn't he be ashamed? He's basically jealous of his best friend and, being with the woman that genuinely loves him. Why would he be okay with that? So but of course he kept those feelings buried inside because, he was ashamed of them. But of course, Zemus took advantage of that, and those dark thoughts were what allowed Zemus, because that's who's actually controlling him, to take control of him, similar to, which, if you go with the 3D version, is similar to how Golbez is with Cecil. Because Cecil, spoilers, is a Lunarian, same as Golbez. And Fusoya, who I haven't even really mentioned because I wanted to mention him more near, in relation to talking about Golbez, anyways, which we'll save for Cecil. But Kane's jealousy is really at the heart of his character arc, because he basically needs to learn, no, it's okay if you're jealous, you know? And yes, I have a headcanon that I have a specific headcanon of that, but let's not that's for the realm of fan fiction, right? And but but Kane, I love that Kane has to overcome that. And of all of the faults of the after years, Kane becoming a Dragoon Paladin is not one of the faults there. I like that. It's one of the few plot points I actually really enjoy from After Years. So then we have, but that of course leads us nicely to Cecil himself. I don't have much else to really say about. I don't have much to say about Golbez outside of his relation with Cecil. For the most part, for a large part of the early game, until it's revealed that until Golbez recognizes him, there is no real. Golbez is just a bad guy, right? But then when we meet Fusoya and we free Golbez from the mind control, well, the shell just gets destroyed, and Golbez actually realizes his true father's name. It's actually one of the reasons why I say Cecil has two character arcs, because now he has to accept not only that he has a brother, but that his brother has done terrible things. And it's actually one of the reasons why the final line from Cecil, goodbye, my brother, is so powerful. Is so is so impactful. I don't have another word for it. But Cecil's journey to become a paladin is actually really great because he starts by doubting himself, then he's stripped of the Red Wings, means then and then he goes and tries to usurp as king to gather allies to do that. And then he tries really, really hard to just redeem himself from. I guess I didn't save Cecil for last. Sorry, we'll get to her. We'll get to her. Anyways, but goes on this crusade to basically bring honor back to Baron because that's what he was raised to do, to fight with honor. But in order to defeat Golbez and, well, to defeat the hate that was threatening to destroy the world, he had to cast aside his dark sword and bid farewell to his bloodstained past. It's actually one of the best written character arcs I've ever had, and it only has one stumbling block. So they're about to head for the final battle, for the final dungeon. And Cecil turns to Rosa and Rydia and says, Rosa, Rydia, you stay here on Earth. I bitched about this on stream, so forgive me for the repetition, but are you fucking serious? Like, how fucking stupid are you? This is the other scene that Edge is terrible in, by the way. So, let's remove the fact that Rosa and Rydia are women. Okay, let's just eject that from the equation because I don't even need to touch on that to explain why this is fucking stupid. And I can be practical about this too. It's not just because I like Rosa and Rydia, because I do, but there's a practical reason. You are telling your white mage and your summoner to stay home. You are telling your white mage and your summoner, who can summon powerful summon creatures to help you, to stay home. Let's ignore the fact that I went to the Land of Summons, which is optional, by the way, and got Azura and Leviathan into my party by that point. Let's also ignore that I'm pretty sure I went and got Bahamut on my first trip. You still have Shiva, Ifrit, and Ramu all backing you up with Rydia on your side. If Rydia is out of your party, you lose that. Never mind the fact that I literally would not have been able to defeat Zeromus without Rosa's white magic helping me out, so there's that as well. I mean, Edge was practically useless in gameplay, which is one of the reasons, which is something I can never tolerate in games when a character is super arrogant, but in gameplay they are super crap. See also Agate from Sky 1 as a great example of that. It really just pisses me off to no end that happens, because it's like you're sending away your healer and your nuclear option. What the fuck are you high on, Cecil? Oh, right. Chivalry that basically misogyny that you're mistaking for chivalry. Right. Which I know I said we were going to eject that, but come on. That really is just fucking stupid. It's because they're women. Let's just be blunt. That is exactly why. Also not helped by the fact that this is literally a 30-second thing. Like, I would have liked it if maybe, if maybe, I don't know, like Zemus had some like minion or something, something that was just like, or maybe we catch up to Golbez and Fusoya, before they get to Zemus, and Golbez looks at Cecil. It's like, oh, you came, and then looks and says, "Where are the women of your party? The girls. Where are your women? Where's your white mage and your summoner?" It's like, we left them back home for safety. Oh, and then have Golbez just be like, oh, do the FF4, you know, you know, 90s Nintendo version of, oh, for fuck's sakes. Hey, Cecil, okay. Hey, I'm gonna challenge you. And then just have Golbez do another curb stomp on us as to really punctuate the idea of, yeah, fuck you, Cecil. You're really gonna challenge Zemus without your white mage and your summoner. You moron. Just proving his point that it's like, yeah, no. You are not challenging Zemus like that. You idiot. You know, that actually would have been really damn cool and would have been a nice callback to my favorite scene with Rydia. Speaking of, let's talk about Rydia. Because I love the fact that Cecil and Kane accidentally kill Rydia's mother. And the bomb ring, of course, sets the town ablaze because he wanted to kill all the summoners. And then he tries to protect Rydia because that's his nature. The lore runner described how he interprets the whole lead up to Capo, that like 30-second walk up as Cecil having to carry Rydia while fighting monsters single-handedly, so she can bring her to Capo, so that she can rest, so that she can so that she can survive, and had to do so in desert heat with, fully armored and with a little girl on one arm. It's actually kind of a nice heroic image, and one that I stick with. It's an interpretation I stick with. Yes, that's headcanon, but God, this is why a SNES RPG is good at. You know, making your making your imagination soar, right? The massive story score, or if I gave FF6, does not lie on that front. And hell, for the record, neither does the plus 34 to story I gave this game. Right? Because then Rydia is basically carted away by Leviathan. And then in the Land of Summons, there's time dilation. So effectively basically time moves a lot faster in the Land of Summons than it does as in the real world. So a day in the Land of Summons is like a minute. It is a full minute is a minute in the rest of the world. Not unlike a certain other franchise I'm a fan of. Anyways, regardless, well, in the first season of it anyway. Regardless, I actually really like that, because Rydia's character arc is fantastic, and I love it, and it culminates in my favorite scene of hers. My favorite scene of hers, which is when she saves us from Golbez, eats his dark dragon, with the mist dragon, and then gets us up so that we can get up and have a chance and chase off Golbez. Fucking love that scene. Second time he's ever been able to be damaged, by the way, which is awesome. Yes, it's awesome shit. It's awesome shit. It fucking love Rydia. She is awesome. She's adorable. And yes, in my OC mode, I ship her with Kang. No joke. In literally the first chapter of the self-insert fanfiction I'm writing, her and Kane are married. Just right out of the gate, they're married. What? But then, so then we go through the final dungeon, and so after the cavalry moment of dealing with the giant, we go and we deal with, and we go and kick, and we have and the cavalry moment and the rematch with the four fiends, which is an awesome boss fight. Really love that. That's the one I was mentioning before. Or we go to the thing. We deal with we have Golbez and Fusoya deal with Zemus, Zeromus, Helmus, of course. Which then kicks their ass because, of course, we have to deal with Zeromus. So then we deal with Zeromus. The prayers reinvigorate us. Invigorate us. Golbez decides to go to slumber because he's committed too many crimes. Cecil delivers the amazing line of "Goodbye, my brother." Then we get a heartwarming ending showing how things are how things are around the world, which ends with the sprites of the characters waving goodbye to the player. I fucking love. I really do love this game. It's not my favorite story in the franchise, not by a long shot. It's got too many things that just piss me off. But it is definitely one of my personal favorite stories. It is a story I do enjoy, you know, because it's funny because true, it's not one of the top tier ones, one of the ones that get over 100 in terms of storyline, in terms of story score. But I would argue that the range of 80 and above is really for stories that I really, really fucking enjoy. And yes, I am saying that basically just to have Sacred Stones in there. One day I'll probably reevaluate. I'll probably reevaluate. Uh, it's Valkyria Chronicles, and that score will probably go up. But I digress. Regardless, that's it for me. I have been going for over an hour, it looks like. If you'll give me a moment to see exactly how long. Yep, about an hour and 8 minutes. And it's FF4 is definitely a game I recommend, and I definitely recommend the Pixel Remaster if you're looking for the 2D version. But honestly, I don't think there's really a bad version of FF4. There's just better versions of FF4 than others. Regardless, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts. Not much for me to say with the Pixel Remaster. The remix music is good in this one, and uh, the the gameplay is still as good as ever, and the gameplay is not really all that different amongst the versions except for tweaks, right? And the 3D version is one that is the only other one I would really do a separate video on for incredibly obvious reasons. Regardless, that is it for me. So I'm going to sign out. Thank you very much for joining me today, and I will see you next time for Final Fantasy V. See you there. Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one.